Hey, friends. Thank you for tuning in to, I believe this is the eighth episode of my podcast now. And my guest today is Kody Williams. So, if you don't know who Kody is, he is actually a good friend of mine who I grew up snowboarding with in London, Ontario. And he went on to become a pro snowboarder. And he lived in California for a long time where he filmed and competed and kind of took his career to the next level. And more recently, he actually hit his head really, really hard and was in a coma and had a really severe TBI, so traumatic brain injury. And over the last couple of years, he's had a long recovery, but he's managed to bounce back. And as far as I can tell, he's almost back to normal. And it's a pretty amazing feat because his doctors and everyone he was dealing with gave him a really small chance of even surviving all of that. So I basically invited him for a little bit of a Skype call, and I just kind of asked him for the details of his story. And yeah, so we went from there, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you are liking the podcast so far, you can subscribe on iTunes or SoundCloud or Google Play, and you can kind of keep up to date with some of the other stuff I have going on because I am going to be releasing a lot of different resources on my website shortly. Cool. So, yeah, sometimes this trips me out when I'm like literally just talking to buddies because I already basically know you super well. So it kind of feels like I almost am acting a bit when I'm like trying to get the ball rolling in the podcast.
Yeah.
So if I like have to act a little bit strange, don't even mind me. Like I'm just trying to kind of guide the conversation so that we can like get to the right questions.
Oh yeah, no worries.
But I like to have a more natural feel to it once it gets going.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like I'm super pumped that we could do an episode because realistically, most of the people that I get to chat with, like I love having conversations with the new people too, but you and I kind of got obsessed with snowboarding together like a long time ago, or like ages ago.
Yeah, very
Um,
long time ago.
yeah, so it's neat to be able to dive into really cool conversations about something that was a huge thing for me and obviously a huge thing for you. And then you have a lot of different things to talk about in that category in that area. So it's fun, it's something that actually like is a lot more connected to me. So in that way, it's pretty cool. But I'm just going to kind of introduce you from my perspective. So when I was younger, like I basically started skiing and I lived around the corner from Boulder Mountain in London. And I just saw older kids snowboarding and decided that I would change over to snowboarding. And then I basically started living at the ski hill. I was there probably six, almost literally 7 days a week while I was playing
Right.
other sports too. It was almost insane. Um, and like I wasn't the only guy doing that. We had a really awesome network of friends who were just obsessed with it. And we were all really fortunate to have Boulder Mountain's a really small, really non-recognized ski hill for the most part, but what it has going for it is that it's a hill right in the middle of the city. So kids like you and me, we always had the opportunity to basically grow up just going there every single day. And there aren't even many places that that's possible. There's like very few ski hills where kids can live at home and still be able to just go to a ski hill for just a few hours and then go home.
Yeah, Bowler definitely made like huge friendships for everybody.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, pretty much all my best friends in one way or another came from snowboarding. And it was like you guys and Jeff and Eric and Andy and like the list goes on and Fellner and
Right.
everybody. But um like in a little hill like London, it's crazy that so many good snowboarders came out of it. In the big picture of snowboarding and the world of sports, like I would say most of us basically were successful snowboarders. Like a lot of us had sponsors and did well in contests and filmed video parts. And then for the most part, that was as good as it got because everyone kind of hits an age where, they realize other interests or things that they want in different ways. And then what you did is you basically just kept going with it. And you were a little younger than the rest of us too. So pretty much I would say there was a point where all of us were progressing at a pretty similar rate, but what you had going for you is that you were still 4 or 5 years younger. So you had so much time to just keep getting really good, and you ended up doing super well. And you ended up moving out to Bear Mountain in California, and from there, obviously you got in on some pretty big videos like Sunday in the Park. Um, like realistically, most people who snowboard a lot are going to know a lot of these details already, but I would say 90% of the people who listen to the podcast aren't really big snowboarders. So I'm
Yeah.
just kind of dumbing it down in that way. But yeah, so you and I go way back, and we're still really good friends today. And then to get onto your head injury story, I remember basically Jeff sent me a message 2 years ago in December, and um, I literally was saw what you were up to on Instagram and stuff, and I kind of knew you were out filming and taking advantage of like a snowstorm that was hitting Vancouver, and yeah, and he just sent me a message one day, and he was like, "Did you hear about Kody yet?" And then my phone just started turning into like a Twitter feed of like messages and like group chats and stuff. And what happened was you basically had a really severe brain injury and you were in a coma. So, um, yeah, obviously something super serious. And with where you were at in snowboarding, you were, for all intensive purposes, um, you were essentially a pro snowboarder getting paid by Burton, filming lots. Actually, I don't know what your sponsorship situation was at that point, but regardless, that's pretty much what you were doing at the time. And yeah, and then that basically happened. And yeah, and then I'm just going to kind of go into the details about what I know about the head injury. And then I guess you can kind of take it from there because what I'm really curious about is to hear your side of it. Um,
Okay.
because I can't even really imagine what was going on in your head the whole time. So from what I know, you basically hit your head super hard, had severe brain trauma, had to have an operation on your brain, and you were in a coma for a long time, and the doctors gave you something like a 20% chance to even survive. And after that, they gave you a really low chance of being able to recover in any kind of dramatic way. And the surgeon, as your mom was telling me just the other day, because coincidentally I saw her at a wedding last night, but um, she was telling me that the surgeon said that it was the hardest operation he's ever had to do. And from there, I remember literally like had a group chat with Jeff and all the guys from Bowler, and we were kind of giving each other little updates as we heard little snippets and whatnot. And Jeff lives in Vancouver, so he pretty much had more information than all of us. So he was kind of giving us all the details at the time. So I remember kind of hearing about you waking up from the coma, having the video sent around, kind of seeing all that, and then seeing videos of you kind of learning how to walk again, like basically learning how to talk again, all different kinds of things like that. And for me, it really just reminded me of Crash Reel, the documentary with Kevin Pierce,
Yeah.
the pro snowboarder, when he hit his head, because he was essentially rivaling Shaun White at the time and had a severe injury, and he became a big advocate for that kind of thing. So, yeah, as far as your head injury kind of story goes, do you want to just kind of walk me
Um.
through it from basically your perspective?
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Vancouver got hit with a huge storm, so we all went from west down there and we like just started filming and hitting like as many spots as we could in a day because it's like so rare to get uh snow like that in Vancouver. And we were down there for about 2 weeks, and I hit my head bad like a day or 2 days, and then I fell and hit my head again, and that's the one that caused the coma and everything. Because
Okay.
the first head injury, it was like dumb on my part. Like I probably had a concussion from that one, and then like the friends like they didn't like really want me to snowboard like the day after, because they're kind of out of it. But like I don't know, I just like was really into boarding and like trying to film like a full part. And then yeah, I went down after hitting my head, and that's like Dr. Mip, the surgeon. He thinks that made it like as bad as it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I'll let you keep going, but when I interviewed Max for my second or third episode, he told me his wasn't like he did not end up in a coma with as much of a crazy recovery as you, by no means, but um, his head injury was exactly like that. It was like a sequence of concussions that just too many in a row, and that kind of is what started all of his problems. But I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, no, so yeah, Dr. Mip, he thought he thinks that's why it was as bad as it was. And then just like I basically don't even remember like hitting the rail or anything. All I my last remember my last memory from that day was I picked up um my friend Evan Stump from the airport, and then we drove to the spot, and that's the last thing I remember from that until like I don't even really like basically remember waking up like kind of was like awake one day with all these things like connected to me like in my body. Tried to talk, was scared because I couldn't talk, and like just my mom and my dad were like in the room just with me.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Wow. So you don't remember it at all?
no, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't
That
remember anything.
okay, that's crazy. That was one thing I was gonna ask because like some people who experience comas or go fall into a coma, they basically feel I think it's called locked in syndrome, where they can see everything around them, but they're just like locked in their body. And I
Yeah,
was
no, I've
always
heard of
wondering
it.
whether you had that or not.
No, I didn't. Um, yeah, I couldn't like. Yeah, I don't remember anything, and I guess like I'd like have some like crazy dreams, and like start blaming my nurses on like taking things from me, and I was just like mad at them, and they're like, "There's no way that ever happened." Like I thought I left the hospital in some of my dreams with like nurses and doctors, and like there's no way you went anywhere. You've been like strapped down to this bed. So that was funny, but yeah, it's just like weird little things like, and even like now I get these like if I like go past a place, I have like the craziest deja vu. Like it feels like I'm there again of just like an old memory.
Hmm.
It's like I don't know, it's like hard to explain. It's like really weird, but like sometimes I'll just be like with Dom, like with my girlfriend, and like we'll be like going past a place and I'll be like, whoa, I just had like the memory, like but feeling like I was actually there in the time when it happened.
Okay. Interesting. These are all places that you've already been or places you've never been also.
No, places I have been like
Okay.
yeah, it's
D-
like really weird. Like I just have like the memories like hits and it feels like I'm in the memory. It's crazy.
that's wild. Yeah, like I'm sure I can't even comprehend what you mean by that, but
Yeah, it's really hard to explain.
what's your memory like for things that happened like a long time ago or things that happened like before your injury?
Um, my long term memory is like fine, but like I've lost like even like memory from like basically like 2 months from before I even hit my head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you don't remember anything during that whole period in time?
Yeah, it's like I don't remember like a lot of like even the beginning of winter um before Vancouver got that snowstorm and we went down there.
Yeah, that's insane. Interesting. Yeah, I've always wondered about that because I mean, realistically, I don't I don't know much about brain injuries, and I think very few people do. I don't think even doctors, it's kind of a new thing that we're still trying to understand. And it just seems like everyone gets everyone experiences those severe brain traumas in a completely different way. And I honestly, like, I never knew what to expect when you started your recovery because I was kind of telling people, I was like, yeah, one of my buddies was in a coma because he hit his head and nobody really knows what's going on. He's in the hospital right now. It's kind of just a waiting game to see if he can bounce back. And I heard a lot of different kinds of stories about similar brain injuries. And the thing that I find so amazing is that every single story I ever heard, and I like ended up looking up a lot of stuff during that time too. Um, people people are almost never ever the same. And I mean that in like a like a small way. I mean like their physical movements, like they can't be coordinated. They like have physical limitations where they can't control their arm in the same way, or maybe their legs in the same way. Or I know for you, the prediction was that it was going to be your whole left side that might not recover the same way as far as your motor skills again.
Yeah.
And but you are like, I know you probably have things that you're still dealing with because obviously it's a really probably it's a huge injury that it's gonna be something you deal with for a long time in little ways. But um, like you're the same Kody that we all kind of used to know, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, what did the doctors give you? Like, are they must be amazed by your recovery.
Yeah, they are. Last summer when Dom and I went back to we spent time up in Whistler and like we went to Vancouver to the hospital just so I could go see all my doctors and like nurses and everything. And they were all like shocked. Like some of my nurses were like crying to see me in there alone walking around, being able to like talk and give them hugs.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's wild.
yeah. For like right now I'd say like the biggest thing like the left side of my body, like I still do feel like it's just like a lot weaker, I'd say. And I kind of have like I think it's just like nerve damage, but a lot of the like I don't have too much feeling in my left side. Like it just like doesn't hurt. Like I got a tattoo on my arm, on my left arm, and it's like the tattoo girl was like, "Are you okay? Like, do you need a break?" And I was like, "No, like I'm 100% fine. I can barely feel it."
Wow.
Yeah, and then my friend Lenny, ever since I told him, he likes to see how far it can go, and he is crazy because it's Lenny, and yeah, he actually hit me in the leg with a bat,
No.
and I didn't like flinch or do anything, and he was like so amazed. He's like, that didn't hurt. Like, you're just okay right now. And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I didn't really feel that.
That's insane, man. Wow.
Yeah,
It
he
sounds
thinks it's
like it sounds like nerve damage. I mean, I'm not an
yeah,
expert, but um,
yeah.
on a really small scale, my left shin, after I had my knee surgery, it's a common thing with ACL or knee surgery that you lose your feeling in your left shin, and sometimes it comes back, sometimes it doesn't. And I have a spot on my left shin where I can just like I can't feel anything. And it's really strange, but you just get used to it, you know? So I guess you feel that kind of thing probably on your whole left side.
Yeah, it's basically yeah, it's mostly my leg, I'd say. But like little less in my arm, but a lot in my legs. In my left
Wow.
leg.
Okay, that's interesting. I never knew that. This is cool. This is interesting because like I've seen you a bunch since you've been back, but we haven't really talked about this kind of thing at all.
Yeah, no.
Um, so what was it like basically waking up in a bed, barely like unable to form sentences and unable to walk? Like, was your mind basically completely there? Like, were you completely aware of understanding people speaking to you and seeing the things around you? Or did that kind of come with time also?
Uh no, that definitely kind of came with time. Like I could like understand like what the doctors were saying and like my parents, but I'd get mad because I would try to talk back, but I couldn't talk. So then they tried to just give me like pen and paper so I could write, but then I couldn't even write. So then I was mostly just like pointing at things and like kind of sign language, but like
Hmm.
yeah, no. Took me a long time to learn how to talk and write again.
So did that kind of just come back slowly, or did you have to be taught it literally through lessons or through classes or something?
Kind of through like classes, like like when you're like a little kid, it's like kind of like the connect the dots to make a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I had to like do all that again.
Wow. That's
Yes,
insane.
yeah, that took a long time, and then walking, walking took like yeah quite a bit of time, just because like first actually well no it's like first I just had to learn how to stand again. which was hard.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember seeing videos of you like standing with a walker.
Yeah,
I think it might have been for the first time.
yeah, that one, yeah, the one on video, that is the first time I stood up.
Okay. Like what was that like? Was that a scary feeling going through that process, or were you just kind of accepting where you were at, or were you just in a mindset where you're like, I'm gonna get back to normal and I'm just gonna do it and make sure that it happens? Like I can't really imagine where kind of state of mind you would have in that scary of a situation, you know?
Yeah, it's like all you do is like just so many positive thoughts and just keep telling yourself like that you can do it. Like every day I was trying to stand, like just try to get myself like a little bit higher up. But like in that video, it's like I basically stand, but then I'm so tired from just standing for the first time. I like have to sit right back down because I'm so tired.
Hmm. That's crazy, man. Um, how long exactly were you in the coma for?
Then I coma for just over a month and a half.
Just over a month and a
Or
half.
no,
Okay.
just
That's
under a month and a half.
okay. That's even longer than I remembered, to be honest. But yeah, that's crazy. And then your recovery was probably 3 or 4 months after that, or I mean, it was way longer than that. But when did you actually, so you were in the hospital for probably another 5 months or so before you flew back to London?
Um, no, I was in the hospital for I can't even remember how long I was actually in the hospital, but from Vancouver General Hospital, I went from there to Parkwood, um, or not Parkwood, um, GF Strong in
Hmm.
Vancouver, and I was an inpatient for rehab there. Well, I also just did more like kind of everyday stuff. Like I had to be tested to see if I could like make food, like cook, clean, get myself together for like a day.
Hmm.
More
Just,
exercises and stuff. Like
yeah. So basically, that's the stage where you're trying to get your own independence back.
yeah.
Yeah. How long did that take?
Um, I was in there. I was in there for I want to say almost 3 months, 2 months maybe. Because at first when I was in there, I was full inpatient, like slept there and everything. And then while I was there, my parents they were like at their place in Vancouver, so then they let me be an outpatient. And I could go sleep at their place, but then I'd have to go back in the morning.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So obviously that was a really long process, and I'm assuming that you didn't really know what kind of state you were going to be in by the time you actually were out of the hospital living back at your parents' place. So what was your motivation to kind of recover? Was your mindset basically, I need to get back to snowboarding again? Was that your driving force, or do you think that you at that point it was just something even bigger than that, where you're like, I just need to get back to being myself. I want to be able to walk and talk and, be completely independent like myself again.
That was definitely like a big thing, but like I just like I wanted to go board, like I wanted to snowboard so bad, like being in like Vancouver and like there's like looking at like my hospital window and stuff and like seeing snow and
Yeah,
like
seeing the mountains and stuff.
yeah, seeing the mountains and then like there my family and I and a family friend we just went to the top of Grouse. Didn't snowboard or anything, but we just went up there and like he just took me up there so I could like be on the mountain but like not snowboarding.
Hmm.
So like going up
Yeah,
there just made me want to snowboard like even more.
for sure. So you knew, yeah, you kind of knew the whole time that was your goal.
Yeah.
It's interesting, man, because there's one thing I've been really listening to Conor McGregor content a lot lately, and it's not because I'm a fan of MMA or anything really, but Conor McGregor's a dude who he's just so self-aware, and he really like does a lot of work to like train his mindset to be so confident and to kind of maintain that confidence as he's going into fights and stuff. And one thing he talks about so often that I've never really heard it verbalized before, but he says all the time that look at anyone who's at the pinnacle of any sport or activity And he's like, you might not realize it, but that person is almost insane to their craft. Like they're literally like it's almost an insanity how obsessed they are with what they're doing. And there's a very few people who can understand that. But once you've experienced that obsession, like you'll never be the same person again in whatever other thing you do in the rest of your life. And I just keep thinking about that because that reminds me of how obsessed I was with snowboarding at that age. And obviously, when you're sitting in a hospital bed learning how to walk again and you're already dreaming about snowboarding, like that's exactly what you were going through, like that pure, really, really deep like obsession with a certain activity. And it's a really neat thing that to be able to experience that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
in your case, it's pretty amazing that you actually get to go back to it. From my perspective, I remember when you were in the coma still, and I don't know if you've ever heard this from, I'm sure you probably have, but it was amazing to me how many people weren't aware of how severe the situation was. And obviously, myself and everyone else included, we were all like praying for the best. We wanted you obviously to get back to normal because that's a horrible thing if you had passed away when you were in the coma or something. That would have been traumatic for everybody and your family, and it would have been a really sad thing. So it doesn't mean, I think a lot of people might have interpreted the way that certain people were looking at your injury as if they're negative thinkers, but I think like I was just trying to be aware of how bad it could come out because there were so many people who were like, "Oh, this is gonna be so funny in like a week when Kody wakes up and he's like back in London, like drinking beers with us or something." And I was like, "You guys don't get it. That's like not how the process is gonna happen. This
Yeah.
is like a really serious injury, and he is is sitting there, and they don't know if he's gonna even live. Like, did you have anyone?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had a lot of people who talk to you as if they don't really realize that you almost died.
Yeah, like a lot of people definitely don't like understand like how bad this situation actually was, and like even like when I go out downtown here stuff with like friends, my mom is like her biggest fear is like always like nobody would ever know like knew what you've been through because she's just like downtown's like so crazy now and like just things can go wrong. But yeah, they're like my mom's like nobody would know what you've gone through unless they could see the scar on your head.
Yeah, it's true,
But
man. And I was having a pretty good conversation with your mom a couple nights ago at that wedding, and that was a pretty common topic was her worry and concern about it.
yeah, um, but yeah, also like being in Vancouver for the injury I had was probably the best place I think I could have been. Dr. Miff, but now I feel bad. I haven't actually talked to Dr. Miff in a while, but for a while we were in contact pretty frequently. I think him and my mom still talk, but he's the one who actually invented the surgery I had, the brain bolt.
Okay.
And yeah, I forget where he went to school. He moved away to just study this thing, and he came back and like perfected it, and now it's used like all over the world. The surgery he invented.
Wow.
And yeah, the skier I've met just through my head injury, because I think she was one of the first people ever to have the surgery. Um, and her name is Jamie Mousy, and she actually fell in Whistler at the Talis Fest, yeah. And yeah, we had the same doctor, Mip, and she came and saw me when I was in the hospital, and she was like amazed to see how well I was doing because she saw me when I was already woken up, and she was only in the coma for 11 days, just like losing her mind to see how well I was already doing.
Hmm.
And
So,
yeah, we stay in touch, and I actually went out to Utah and filmed a little segment with her for I've linked up with called High Fives Foundation. They're out of Tahoe, and they help like injured athletes and stuff. So yeah, I filmed a little segment with her called Helmets Are Cool, just promoting helmets.
okay, that's amazing. So, what was her recovery like? Is she in pretty good shape these days?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's in. good shape these days. She does a lot of stuff with Bert. She has a talk show as well, and she kind of like travels around a lot, and she's like a huge speaker for brain injuries. That's like why she was in Vancouver when she was in Vancouver is for to talk at a hospital, and she heard about my injury while she was there, and came and saw me in my room.
Wow, that's pretty wild. That's a good opportunity for you though to get involved in being able to kind of talk about your experience and kind of get the awareness out there.
Yeah, it is for sure. The
Hmm.
little video we made called "Helmets Are Cool." I think it's coming out like near the end of the month for sure, near the end of October, and yeah, it's just talking about how it's like not stupid or you don't look stupid to wear helmets. Actually, like you don't think anything wrong is gonna happen until it does happen.
It's true, man. And I mean, well, being somebody who lives in Ontario and rides in Ontario, for the most part, I don't really have a problem with that because you have to wear a helmet to be allowed in every park.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
like when I was out west, I wasn't really wearing a helmet too much, and um, yeah, and I mean, I think your injury was a wake up call to a lot of people. It really was because the whole industry saw it, and the GoFundMe for raising funds for your recovery, all of that stuff was posted everywhere. Like the big names that everyone knows and recognizes in the sport were sharing it, all the magazines and stuff, and um, yeah, I think it was like those injuries happen a lot more in this sport than anyone ever realizes. It's kind of almost like a secret, unspoken dark side of snowboarding and skiing that is just kind of swept under the rug really often.
Yeah, yeah, it's
But
definitely like it's like the concussion thing. Like is definitely crazy. Like when I went back to Bear last winter and snowboarded for my first time again, um, I actually fell there and got another concussion, so I was off my board for a little while again after that.
is that was since your injury, eh? So that was last winter.
Yeah, that was since my injury.
Yeah. Have you had many so I wanted to ask you about this as well. I was just going to ask you if you've had any kind of ongoing, very obvious symptoms. And I was talking to Dom on Friday, and she was telling me that about kind of your experience with your grand mal seizure,
Yes.
where your whole left side of your body was in a seizure. Is that right?
The grand mal, when I have that seizure, it's like full blackout, like my whole body's kind of going.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I've had a few of those, and like those are like the worst ones you can have. Um, you have to go, and then yeah, you have to go 8 months free to be able to drive again. And I was almost just about there, and then I had another seizure, so that set me back.
Oh man. How
So
long ago was that now?
that was in June. It was at work. Um, we're in the work truck driving to a job site, and I could feel it coming on, but the guy I was working with, he was new, so I couldn't like I could feel the seizure coming on. And it wasn't a grand mal. Cause like I've had some now, like I can tell when they're coming because the left side of my face will start to twitch out, or my hand will start to shake. I feel like really like light in my chest, so like
Hmm.
I know I'm about to have a seizure, and I can like warn them.
Hmm. Is it only ever on your left side?
It always starts on the left side. I like if I'm about to have a seizure, like my lip, like corner of my cheek will kind of start like twitching out, and then my hand will start to shake, and it just gets more intense and faster, and then like it fully just comes on.
Wow. How long do they usually last when you're experiencing them?
Um, I'd say probably about the grand malls they're different, but these more mellow ones I've been having lately, they're probably like a minute or two.
Yeah. So this is one thing Dom mentioned that might be a good thing to to ask you about. And it's kind of an interesting time to bring it up too, since marijuana was just made legal in Canada like 4 days ago. So I know I've literally seen videos about this for a couple years, like on Vice and different places where people are talking about how CBD oil is basically solving, like they don't have seizures anymore because of the fact that they're taking it on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
and not necessarily even on a regular basis, but it's doing huge things for them in that way. And for me, it just kind of seems like it's like, wow, that's awesome that it can do that for someone. But that's something that I never have to think about. But it's interesting to hear that you like. What is your take on that? Are you experimenting with that, or have you kind of been reading into it or anything like that?
I have been experimenting with it, and there's a girl I've talked to before. I think she's from Tahoe, maybe, and all she uses now is CBD. She's fully off her meds and just uses CBD because she hasn't had a seizure. And when I was just in California last for hot dogs, my friend Daniel, um, he like works for a CBD company now. He just like gave Dom and I like just like a bag of like everything, like a CBD pen that you can like smoke, and like this other like liquid that you can put into your drink, and just like a he gave us a joint, which was really weird because it was a CBD joint, so like you smoke the whole thing and you don't get high, but you like feel good. Like I don't know, it's like
Hmm.
it's weird.
What?
Like it helps with headaches for sure. I think.
Yeah, because it's like a bodily effect, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's so interesting how that can work and how like the human body has like cannabinoid receptors all over it. So it's like, how does the human body evolve that thing unless it was meant to, or people used to use it a lot back in like way long ago, you know?
Mhm.
So she, as far as you go, do you have to take a lot of meds still?
Yeah. The meds I'm on right now, I have to take twice a day, and it's a total of 5 pills. I have to take two every morning around 9, and then three at night in between like 9 and 10. So those pills, yeah, they say I just might be on those forever. Like I might have to just take them for the rest of my life.
Hmm. One thing that I saw you make a post about it a long time ago now. It might even have been like 8 or 10 months, but you were basically mentioning that, hey, like it might look like I'm totally fine, but there's a lot of things that are still going on, like as leftover effects of my brain injury that a lot of people might not know. Um, and I don't know if you don't want to disclose those, you don't have to, but I'm kind of curious if you wanted to kind of mention a few of the things that are kind of behind the scenes that a lot of people might not realize that you're going through.
Um, a lot of that stuff now I'd say is like better now, but like even when I first got back home, it's like just like the memory is so bad. Like I'd be go like if I went out, like when I first got home, like I would never like I didn't drink alcohol, and if people saw me out, I was drinking non-alcoholic. Like I'd have non-alcoholic beer if I like went to a friend's house, and just stuff like that. But then I remember one time I was like I think it was at Barney's, and one of the security guards was like trying to like check me out because he thought I was like popping pills in the bar, and I was like, no man, and I was like, I have to take these pills, like I need to take them right now, like they're a huge part of my life.
Yeah, this is
And
like how I survive right now.
yeah, and like people just like yeah, like for a little bit, people were like they thought I was actually just like taking pills like all the time, just like not even like medically, just like they just thought I was popping pills all the time.
Yeah,
And I was like, no, like I need to take these.
yeah, this is important. Those must like are those people who knew that you had a head injury?
Um, Sometimes it was, and then sometimes it's just like other people like you're just popping pills in here. And I'm like, no, like I'm not. Like, I have to take these. But
Yeah.
what was I just gonna say? Oh yeah, just like another big thing is like all of like the people I've known for like ever. It's like I'll see them like on like I know your name and everything, but then like people like I'll just like see in high school, and if like I'm out and I see them, they'll come up to me and they're like, it's like I know their face and like I know them, but I don't know who it is at all,
Yeah,
which
you
is
can't.
weird. It's like I know who it is, but I can't figure it out.
So maybe like those faint memories that aren't quite as solidified
Yeah, and it's like
might have left a bit. Yeah.
yeah, it's like not anymore, but for like the long time, it was like I was still stuck like in that year that happened. Like I would go out to the bar and they'd ask me how old I am on my ID, and I'd say 23, and they're like, "Oh, that's not what your ID says." And then Dom would be like, "Code, you're 24," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it was my birthday." Just because like I was still like in hospital or like rehab.
That's crazy, man. So wait, you were in the rehab. Yeah, you were in that stage during your birthday. When is your birthday again?
February 19th.
Okay, yeah. So you would have been right in the thick of it.
Yeah,
Do
and
you
it's like,
find, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, just like my friends from like my friends Skylar and Lenny came down from California to see me for my birthday, and that was the first time I was allowed to. I think that was when I was just being able to eat food, like because for the longest time I couldn't even drink water or food. I was like fed through my nose, and
Wow.
I'd have to just drink liquidized or like thickened water. They call it. It's almost like a Jello.
Oh man.
It's disgusting, but yeah. But I think on my birthday that might have been one of the first times I was allowed to like go out and eat food, but I was still only allowed to like eat pasta with butter, but I was like really excited for that.
Wow. Man, I would be excited for that too if I hadn't eaten in months.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Eating good food's like one of the best things about it. It's just like one of the best things, period.
Yeah, it was like I was so happy for that just pasta with butter. It was like crazy.
Wow. That's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah,
So pumped for
and
pasta butter. That's
yeah.
hilarious. Maybe I'll go make some of that after this. I'm getting kind of hungry. Um, yeah, so I wanted to ask you about this too. Do you find that people treat you differently after having your head injury?
um, I would say in ways sometimes. Um, but not just like if I'm like hanging out. If I'm like having like a couple of drinks or something, people kind of like look out more. And then if I'm snowboarding or skateboarding, I'd say people are definitely like keeping an eye on me and just like I don't know, like they like if I'm snowboarding with Lenny, Lenny's like always making sure like I'm okay. Like if I fall, Lenny's like right there,
Yeah,
just like make sure I'm all good.
for sure. I get that. I can totally understand it. Um,
Yeah, but I'd say that's like the biggest way I get changed, like treated differently, kind of.
mhm. I remember like you posted a video of you skateboarding without a helmet and
Oh yeah,
like 2 hours later you deleted it and had a bunch of like apology posts and
yeah, that was
yeah,
bad.
like
That was not good on my part.
yeah, yeah. I mean for sure. At least you know now.
Yeah.
But so what is your I know right now you're kind of looking at starting a helmet company, kind of promoting that type of awareness for how important it is to actually protect your brain. Um, is that
Yeah,
yeah, I'll let you just kind of talk about it a bit.
yeah, no, just trying to find the right manufacturers and stuff to make helmets. But yeah, I'm trying to make a helmet company called Dome Piece, and just been like going over like different ideas and like for me, I never liked when I was like younger. I hated wearing like a big, bulky, heavy helmet. So I'm trying to find a way to make it slimmer and like just like not as bulky and just like light.
Cool. Yeah, your mom was telling me that there's been different times where you guys are out and about and you're looking at the helmets and you're kind of like really dissecting them and their characteristics and you're holding up certain helmets and you're like, man, this is a shit helmet. Like this
Yeah,
wouldn't do anything. And um, I mean, it's a really cool thing that you're looking into doing because realistically, that's like such a problem in snowboarding is the stigma against helmets, but that has a lot to do with the fact that all kind of helmet manufacturers are basically making these big bulky helmets that they are kind of inconvenient in a certain way. Like when you're really a freestyle rider and you want to kind of feel loose and comfortable so that you can kind of do what you're doing, having a big bulky helmet that like floats on top of your head, so annoying.
So annoying, just so uncomfortable, and just you want to take it, you just like want to take it off. So like that's like I always say that too. Like coming from Ontario, if you want to be in the park, you have to have a helmet on. But then once you move away or go somewhere you don't need them, you just kind of you drop and just like forget about it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, I mean, that's what I did, so I can't really deny that in any way. And like even but it's a really interesting topic because I don't know how to describe this. There are multiple different sections within snowboarding. You know, there's park rats who kind of are they're slope style people.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily what a park rat is, but there's like slope style people, and it's kind of like a more it's almost more like traditional sports where it's a little more organized. You're going in contests a lot. You're hitting big jumps. Um, and as funny as it is going to sound to people who are out, are really have not dove into the snowboard world or the snowboard scene, there's a certain way people dress on the slopes for that, and they just wear big coats, big helmets. You know, obviously they need helmets because they're hitting giant jumps. But then there's these other sides of snowboarding, and there's like park rats, people who hit more street spots, and people who grow up at like more like Ontario hills where it's more like little rail features everywhere, more little jibs than it is jumps. And that's kind of that culture in general outside of Ontario. It's like those people don't like wearing helmets. And if you were able to just the fact that you're kind of a really well-known guy in the industry at this point and you're working on creating cool helmets, it would kind of in my mind, this would put you at a place where it's a lot bigger than just a snowboarding thing. It would kind of, you could kind of be the face of promoting the fact that helmets are important, but not just sitting there being like, this is safety, like kind of like old fashioned about it, like put on your seatbelt, it's important. You're
Yeah.
actually taking a different approach where you're like, why don't we just make helmets better and different?
Yeah, that's what I want to do for sure. Like yeah, like what my mom was telling you. Yeah, we were out the other day. I was actually just like looking at helmets, and I was like, this could probably give you a concussion. Like this is really just like a hard piece of styrofoam with a little bit of plastic over it. Like it's not going to do too much. It's still hard on the inside of the helmet. So yeah, me is just basically thinking about ways to make it safe, but like condense at the same time, so it's not big and bulky and you don't want to take it off your head all the time.
Hmm. Yeah. And you know what? The thing is, that's like what everyone is always secretly looking for in helmets. And
Yeah,
like myself included, you kind of look at the bigger helmets and then you look at the little ProTech ones that aren't really made to protect you in that way. They're almost like skateboard helmets. Like I don't know how to describe them. They're really thin, and then there's the really thick snowboard helmets, and it'd be so perfect to just have something in between.
yeah, exactly. And then
But
what was it? For me right now, I think for the helmet thing, I'm like really hyped on the idea I had. I think if I can find a way to make that work with the, to me, that's a good idea, but just have to find a way to make it work.
yeah, definitely. It's a really cool concept. I think that the other thing is that it's just something that a lot of people would get behind. It's not just you making helmets and trying to sell them. It's like a really something that could change the biggest problem in those sports, which is people not wearing helmets. Literally
Yeah,
the biggest problem in my mind.
yeah, and it's like even when like I've talked before, it's like when I talked with like Jamie and like the High Fives Foundation, we did that thing with them. Had to do like a little talk with them, and I was like, it's crazy because if I never had the injury I had, I probably still wouldn't be wearing a helmet. But it's like just because it happened to me and it was as bad as it was, it's like think about it all the time. And it's like I was so dumb for not wearing a helmet, and I was so dumb to snowboard after having like the concussion days before.
Hmm. And you know what though? Like, you can beat yourself up all you want, but the actual education about brain injuries is not common knowledge, you know? You didn't you didn't understand the consequences of a serious brain injury, and you probably didn't understand the consequences of continuing of hitting your head a second time while you have a concussion. And I literally can't say that I would do anything different. I've had a lot of concussions in my life. I've never had a traumatic brain injury, or I've never had any back to back, but I could have easily just hit my head again like pretty shortly after. And it's like very few people are aware of how fragile your brain can be at certain different times.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't think that's your fault really.
No. Um, I definitely don't know too much about it, but like just from myself going through it, I definitely know like a lot more about it now, and like how serious it actually is.
When it comes to snowboarding, uh, where are you at these days? Are you pretty much trying to get back into it to the same extent that you were before, or are you kind of looking at it in a different way?
No, I'm definitely trying to get back to like where I was, and I think this year will be like a lot like last year. Last winter I went to Bear. Just being back on my board and like riding with everybody again. I was definitely like timid and more cautious on my snowboard than I've ever been, for sure. Like everything I would do is like just like think like before I would never think about really so much everything that can go wrong. But like just riding in the park at Bear, I was just like if I fall this way, like this could go so wrong, or like I don't know, I just like thought about it so much about
Hmm.
falling. But this year I'm gonna try to kind of fully get back into it. I'm gonna go to back to Bear and probably get my legs going there for early season, and then thinking about trying to put together like a little part this winter in the streets again.
Awesome, man. It's cool to see that you're able to get back to snowboarding. That's awesome, and I think the helmet thing is awesome too. Definitely, if you can make that work, I would say go for it because like snowboarding is awesome, but that's just an initiative that's so much bigger than snowboarding, you know, and it will bring you so much value, like so much bigger than just snowboarding and what you love to do right now. So there's a lot of cool opportunities going on there for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a project that's gonna take some time and work, but I'm hyped on it, and like I've had people asking me about it. Like I have kids from New York asking me like when they can get a helmet, and I was like, well, like how do you even know about it or whatever? And I was like, well, I don't have any helmets right now. I have to find the right manufacturer, but as soon as I get some made, I'll send some out your way.
Yeah, man. You're positioned pretty well to pull that off. That's cool that they're already hitting you up about it.
Yeah, for sure. When I got those messages, I was definitely stoked.
It's those little things sometimes. Sometimes you're kind of dip your toes in and then you get a little bit of reassurance and you're like, "Oh man, I have to do more of this." And that's kind
Yeah,
of what
exactly.
I mean, yeah, that's what obviously you got with that. That's kind of why I'm doing this podcast. It's still really just for me, but it's cool when you get that kind of thing for sure, when you get that kind of reaction. I think this is probably a good point to wrap it up. I mean, this is something, if we wanted to dive into specific things about your experience, I'm sure we could talk for ages and ages, but it's a pretty crazy story, you know? Um, and it's interesting seeing it firsthand because obviously we were all super close, all the guys who grew up hanging out at Bowler. So
Oh yeah,
when you started doing a lot better with your snowboard career, it was really neat for all of us because I feel like in a weird way we all kind of felt like we're part of it, which is a hilarious thing to say, but um,
no, you guys were for sure because even just being there and then like boarding with you guys here, And then even like later, like going to like Blue and stuff with you guys as well was like fun. Even like filming street stuff.
Yeah, for sure, man. I feel like we all kind of cultivated and fed off each other for a long time.
Oh yeah, for sure.